Hello there. Welcome to Whispers.exe, where the silence watches back. The following story is a work of fiction created for atmospheric and entertainment purposes. Before the shadows whisper your name, hit that subscribe button. With that being said, get comfortable, close your eyes, and let the dark settle in. It begins like most things do, quiet, unnoticed, and far too late to stop. Tonight's story is The Man on the Sandbar. They say the tide speaks a different language. Not in words, no, not like that, in absences, in gestures, in what it forgets to cover and what it refuses to return. The village of Neely's Hollow sat so close to the edge of the sea, the houses wore salt like skin. Shingles curled from years of storm breath, and every porch creaked with the memory of wet wood and watching. It was the kind of place where time didn't pass so much as settle, thick and briny, in the lungs of those who stayed. No roads in, just a causeway, half swallowed by tides and memory. They first saw him in April, a silhouette, thin, upright, facing the sea. He stood on the outer sandbar, the one that only showed itself at the lowest tide. The bar was a fickle thing, appearing only for a few hours when the moon was hungry enough. But each time it did, he was there, always already there. Some thought he might be a fisherman from further downshore. Others whispered things about wrecks and ghosts and those who never made it to land. But the man never moved, never turned, just stood, hands at his sides, looking towards something no one else could see. No one knew who he was, and yet no one seemed eager to ask, except for Ellis. Ellis was old in a way that had nothing to do with age. He had a face like driftwood and eyes that looked just past you. He rode out every morning to set his lines, his hands steady, his silence practiced. He was the first to speak of the man aloud. "Don't like the way he stands," he said one morning as the tide slithered back out to sea. "Too still," he added, "like he's listening for something that ain't for us." The others laughed it off, called Ellis dramatic, salt mad, but they didn't laugh long, because Ellis rode out one dawn and didn't come back. The sun was just beginning to melt the horizon when someone spotted his skiff, bobbing gently in the shallows near the jetty. No Ellis, no gear, just the boat, and a thin layer of dry, pale sand covering the seat where he'd sat. Not wet sand, not damp, dry. They say it was from too, like it had come from somewhere far from the tide, like it had been carried there from a place that didn't breathe the same air. The village changed after that. They watched the sandbar more carefully, and sure enough, the man still came, every low tide, every time, unchanging. He never acknowledged them, but every now and then someone would claim he'd turned just slightly, as if his ear had tilted toward the land, as if he'd heard something, as if someone had called to him. A child once ran toward the shore, pointing. He waved, she said, but no one else had seen it, and when they turned back, he was already gone. The tide had swallowed the bar early that day. Soon no one fished near the inlet. No one spoke his name, though no one had ever given him one. Still, there were stories. A woman said she'd heard humming in her dreams, low, deep, like something sung through water. She woke to find sand in the folds of her blanket. She lived alone. A boy went missing, not taken, just gone, vanished between breakfast and the school bell. They searched for 3 days. On the fourth, they found his boots on the tide line, dry, upright, as if he'd stepped out of them to walk into the sea. The man on the sandbar came the next morning, stayed longer than usual. Some believed he was a ghost, others something else. Not dead, but not quite alive. The kind of thing the sea keeps for itself. No one tried to reach him again, not until the storm. It was early September, the kind of storm that moaned 3 days before it arrived, the kind that made trees bow and windows weep. The tide refused to recede that morning it held, pulled taut like breath before a scream, but the sandbar showed itself anyway, longer, wider, and on it, two figures. One was the man, the other, too far to name, but smaller, uneven. Some swore it was a child. By the time the villagers reached the shore, the second figure had disappeared, and the tide came in, all at once, like a hand closing. The man remained. After the storm, strange things began to wash up, not driftwood or shells, but things that didn't belong. A typewriter ribbon, a bell with no clapper, a porcelain doll's face, smooth and eyeless. Each item dusted in that same pale sand, dry as bone. One night, a young man named Rourke walked into the sea. He said nothing to his family, left the front door open, his coat still on the peg. His footsteps stretched down the beach like a trail of thought. His skiff was found the next morning, drifting, empty, and full of sand. After that, no one said much, but shutters were nailed tighter, candles burned longer, and every low tide someone watched from behind curtains. He was still there, still standing, still listening. Years passed, people left the village, others stayed, but the man remained. He never aged, never moved, and yet the sandbar seemed to grow closer. An old woman whispered at first. "He's not where he used to be," she said. "He's nearer now." And she was right. Each year, the bar crept a little closer to shore. Each time it appeared, it lingered longer, and with it, the man stood just a bit nearer. He was clearer now, not just a shape. You could make out the outline of his coat, the sharp line of his jaw, even the shadows where his eyes should be. But there were none, just hollow sockets, smooth as stone, no eyes at all. Some said he had no face. Others said it shifted like sand in the wind. A letter arrived in town one spring. No return address, no handwriting, just a folded piece of paper, blank, save for one line. "It's not a man." That night, the tide did not come in. It stayed out until morning, long enough for the bar to remain, long enough for someone or something to reach the shore. No one saw it, but every doorknob in town was found turned, every window unlocked, every mirror slightly tilted, and on each porch a thin line of dry sand. They called a priest. He came. He stayed one night. The next morning he left before dawn, said nothing, but his Bible was found near the shore, waterlogged, missing pages. The man returned that evening, stood still, closer than ever. A girl named Elsie went down to the beach. She was 8. She said she heard a song in the waves, not notes, not melody, just a rhythm, like breath, like something waking. They watched her carefully after that, but she seemed fine, at least for a while. Then she began to draw, not pictures of the sea, but doors. Hundreds of them, endless, always half open, always made of sand. One drawing showed a door in the sky, another beneath the village well, but the last, it was the sandbar, and something behind the man, tall, faceless, leaning. No one asked where she got the image. They burned the drawings, moved inland, left the beach to itself. Elsie disappeared 3 weeks later. Her shoes were found at the base of the causeway, filled with sand. The village is mostly empty now, just a few homes, a store with no name, and the whisper of tides that never seem to follow the moon anymore. But the man is still there. He waits, he listens, he watches. And the bar, it's just a few steps from shore now, closer than breath, closer than sleep. They say if you stand at the edge of the water at just the right hour, if the tide is low and the air still enough to hear your own heartbeat, you'll see him. Not standing, but walking toward you. And if you don't move, if you don't look away, if you listen just a little too long, you'll hear the silence say your name, and the sea will forget to give you back. They found another boat last week. No name, no oars, just drifting along the edge of the cove, bumping softly against the rocks like it was waiting to be noticed. Inside, sand again, dry, packed tight, and something new this time. A single glove, child-sized, turned inside out. It hadn't rained for days, but the glove was soaked. Not with seawater. Not quite. The smell was wrong. Sweet, faint, like breath trapped in a jar. No one touched it. They burned the boat instead. But fire doesn't always cleanse. Sometimes it remembers, and sometimes it releases. That night, a man woke to find his front door wide open, the latch still drawn, the lock still bolted, but the door open, swinging slow in the windless dark. He didn't go outside. He just stood at the threshold looking out, and in the sand before his steps, 2 prints, side by side, pointing in. The man doesn't speak anymore, just hums. That same slow rhythm, not a tune, just breathing. Sometimes, if you listen closely, you can hear it coming from dunes at night, that dry rasp of something ancient and patient shifting just beneath the topsoil. It's not the wind, not anymore. The inn closed after the last guests fled in the middle of the night. They left everything behind, luggage, shoes, even a pair of glasses folded neatly on the nightstand. Only one thing was out of place. The mirror in the hallway, cracked, not shattered, not broken, but split vertically, right down the center, like something had watched too long and leaned too close. When the sun came up, the man on the sandbar was gone, but so was the sandbar. Completely. No trace. Only water, calm, still, and darker than it should have been. It didn't return for a month, and when it did, it was shaped differently, no longer flat. It rose in the middle, a mound, like something waiting underneath. Some say it's a grave, others say it's not a burial but a doorway, that the man isn't waiting for someone to come out, he's waiting for someone to go in. One evening, just before dusk, a light flickered out near the pier. No one had lit it. The pier's been unused for years, yet there it was, a lantern swinging gently on its hook, not by wind, but as if carried. By the time anyone reached it, the lantern was still warm, and underneath it, more sand. Always the sand. Dry as bone, pale as ash. One of the teenagers dared to take a handful back home. Thought it would be funny, a souvenir. He kept it in a jar, sealed, labeled it with tape and a grin. Ghost dust, he wrote. 3 days later, he woke to find the jar shattered, the sand gone, but a thin trail of it led to his closet. He hasn't slept since. Keeps the lights on, doesn't blink too long, says he hears breathing under the floorboards. His parents moved him inland, far inland, but the breathing followed. They say he screams in his sleep now. Not words, just sound, just fear. A letter arrived to the last house on the northern bluff, written in ink so faint it looked like fog trapped on paper. It only said, "You forgot something." No return address, no stamp, only a smear of sand in the crease of the fold. No one opened the door for a week after that. An old fisherman named Thayer tried to document the appearances, said he was tired of whispers and wanted facts. He drew charts, kept logs, tracked tides, moon phases, even barometric pressure. Then he stopped showing up at the store. A neighbor found his cabin empty. No sign of struggle, no mess, just a note on the table. It read, "I think it's listening now." The last page of his notebook was torn out, but the imprint remained. If you shaded it with pencil, one line appeared. Just one. The bar is no longer the boundary. 2 days later, someone found Thayer's hat on the sand, perfectly centered. No footprints, no drag marks, just the hat. And around it, a circle of dry sand, so tight and precise it looked drawn with a compass. A new family moved into the hollow last fall, said they wanted to escape city life, breathe fresh air, see stars again. They lasted 6 nights. On the seventh, the father stood at the beach for hours, just staring, didn't speak, didn't blink. When his wife touched his shoulder, he turned and said, "It's deeper than it looks." They left that night, didn't even take their car, just walked and walked. Their house sits empty now, but the lights sometimes flicker on, always around low tide. The windows fog from the inside, like someone is breathing against the glass. Some of the older villagers have stopped calling him the man. They say it gives too much shape to something that doesn't deserve it. They call him the standing, not a person, just a condition, a presence, a posture too permanent. Once, long ago, a woman claimed to see his shadow move before he did, as if time were different around him, as if he lived a second ahead. No one believed her until they watched the footage. Security camera, grainy, but clear enough. The shape of the man, still. But his shadow, it turned, tilted, leaned, just slightly, toward the camera. The feed cut out after that. The camera never worked again. One night, a low rumble shook the hollow. Not thunder, not tectonic, just a vibration that sank into the bones. Windows hummed, walls flexed, and from the shoreline, a sound. Not loud, not sharp, but layered, like hundreds of voices whispering at once. No words, just breath, just knowing. When morning came, a new structure had formed on the bar. Not a figure, not quite, but a second silhouette, shorter, tilting, almost leaning on the first. They stood together for 7 tides, then the second disappeared, and the first remained. He always remains. No matter the storm, no matter the season, he is there. When the sea sleeps, he stands. And if you get too close, if you watch too long, if you feel that pull behind your ribs, the ache that says step forward just once, just a little, don't. Because he's not waiting for you. He's remembering you, and he always gets back what he remembers. The shoreline has changed, not eroded, not reclaimed, just rewritten. Paths that used to curve now end abruptly. Stairs lead into dunes that weren't there the day before. The beach tilts at an angle it never did before. The standing arrived, as though the land is shifting to meet something or to avoid it. Um, People began seeing things out of the corners of their eyes, not full figures, just impressions. A sliver of coat vanishing behind a dune, the glint of something still and upright, far too deep in the mist, and always, always facing away. A woman named Marla lost her dog near the jetty. It was a mutt named Kettle, old and slow, half blind but loyal. She let him off leash for a few minutes. He didn't bark, didn't run, he simply walked forward, toward the fog, toward the bar. By the time Marla realized he was already too far to call back, she stepped onto the first stones of the jetty, then stopped, not because she heard something, but because she didn't. The sea was silent, completely. No waves, no gulls, no wind, just silence. And in that silence, a shape stood at the far end of the bar, not the standing, taller, leaning backward as if it had no weight. She didn't speak of what she saw, but she never walked near the shore again, moved inland, took a job at the post office 20 miles north, left her boots on the porch and never came back for them. Some nights the hollow echoes with the low groan of something shifting beneath the sand, not a sound made by water, not the settling of dunes, but something heavier, deliberate. Uh, a few brave or foolish souls have tried to document the figure. They bring cameras, long range lenses, even thermal scopes. They record, they watch, they wait. The footage never plays back properly. It begins clear, the figure visible, still, upright, but then the file corrupts. The image warps, and in the last frame, always, just the ocean, empty, and the faint outline of a face in the reflection of the lens, not the standings. A different one, wider, open, mouth agape, as though screaming, not in pain, but in hunger. The bar has been growing again, not just in size, in elevation. It now rises above the tide line longer than ever before, hours sometimes. It no longer waits for low tide. It chooses when to appear, and each time he is there. First, the standing, then something else beside him. Not always the same shape, not always the same height, but always near, always watching from behind. The dunes have started to whistle, not with wind, not naturally. The sound is too patterned, too rhythmic, like breathing through gritted teeth or humming through a sealed throat. One child drew it in class, said it was what the beach sounds like now. Crayon strokes across the page, gray, black, streaked red. The teacher asked him what the red lines were. He said, they're the cracks where it hears through. He doesn't speak anymore. Not aloud. Only whispers into jars, seals them tight, and hides them in the walls of his home. When asked why, he says, so it can't follow my voice back. The sea foam has darkened lately, no longer white, more a faint yellow-gray, like something old frothing up from below. It stains the shore, leaves strange silt behind. Not salt, something finer, closer to ash. A family on holiday found a bundle in the surf, tightly wrapped in seaweed, twine threaded through like stitches. They thought it was a washed-up animal, but when they opened it, inside, folded like linen, was a raincoat, child-sized, bone-dry. The twine had a tag knotted into it, a name, handwritten in smudged graphite. No one recognized it until they searched the archives. A girl from 40 years ago disappeared during a school trip. Body never found. The same week, the standing was seen further inland, not on the bar, but at the edge of the causeway, facing the hollow, still not moving, but closer, closer than ever before. He was gone by sunrise, but the beach was scattered with footprints, child-sized, adult-sized, all leading inland, none leading back. The villagers began marking their thresholds with salt. It does nothing, they know that, but it gives the illusion of boundaries, and boundaries, however fragile, make the dark more bearable. One man tried to talk to the figure. His name was Ben, a young photographer, curious, skeptical. He launched a drone with speakers, programmed it to play a recording. Who are you? It flew out, hovered above the bar. The standing didn't move. But the drone's feed cut. When retrieved, the footage was mostly static, except one frame. A close-up, not of the man, but of something behind him. Just a corner. A mouth, wide open. No teeth, no tongue, just black. And inside that black, not darkness, not void, but something moving. Something crawling. Ben moved away after that, but before he left, he carved a warning into the side of the general store. 4 words. It's not the sea. The words have faded with salt and time, but the message remains. Some nights people say they hear their names whispered on the wind, not shouted, not spoken, whispered. From the dunes, from the bar, from the cracks in the mirror. One man recorded it, played it back. There was nothing there but static until the very end. When he stopped the tape, the audio kept playing, a soft voice, his mother's. She'd been dead 10 years. And yet there she was saying, "Come home. It's waiting." He burned the tape, but the message played again 2 nights later, not on the recorder, from the sink. The faucet dripped it in rhythm, clicking syllables, soft consonants, wet vowels, each drip a word, each splash a breath. The man left town, he left his water running, it hasn't stopped. The standing never turns, but somehow you always feel seen, like the figure isn't observing, it's remembering. Not just watching you now, but having always watched from before, from inside, from a time you don't recall but somehow regret. It doesn't come to take. It waits for you to offer. And eventually, everyone does, even if only in thought, even if only once. One moment of longing, one breath too deep at the edge of sleep, one whisper back. That's all it needs. The tide doesn't protect you, distance doesn't either. The bar moves when it wants, and the figure is never bound. You'll know it's near when your reflection lingers a second too long, when your footsteps sound like someone else's, when silence fills your lungs and leaves no room for air. Then, then you'll feel it, the pull, the hunger, the knowing. The beach will no longer be sand and water. It will be memory and invitation. And the standing, he'll turn just once, just enough, and you'll finally see what's behind his face. And by then, it will already be too late. There are some things your mind will not let you see, not because they are hidden, but because they are too vast, too quiet, too patient. The standing is one of them. You don't see him at first. Not really. You see the space he refuses to leave. You feel the air warp around him. You hear the silence thicken when your eyes try to settle on his outline. But seeing, truly seeing, that happens only once. A boy named Connor tried to sketch him, not from memory, but from life. He sat on the dunes with a pad and pencil, watching the bar through binoculars. He drew for hours. When his mother came to call him in, he didn't respond. She found him still sitting, eyes wide, hands still tracing lines that weren't there. The paper was blank, completely, but he kept whispering, "I finished it." That night, the drawing appeared on the wall above his bed, not taped, not pinned, etched into plaster. Deep, ragged scratches forming a shape too intricate, too fluid to be human. A figure standing, 1,000 eyes spiraling out from the void where a face should be. The next morning, Connor was gone, but the wall was smooth again, untouched, and in the place where his bed had been, a perfect rectangle of dry, pale sand. His parents don't speak anymore, just sit on the porch each morning, staring out toward the tide, waiting. Others have tried to describe the feeling, being near the bar, being near him. They all use different words. But the sentiment is the same, a pressure, a weight, like a sound that never finishes, or a scream held in water. One man said it felt like being remembered by something you never met and being recognized by something you forgot you were part of. A woman saw him from her attic window. She was sewing. Late evening, quiet. She looked up once, casually, and he was there. Not on the bar, but on her roof. No sound, no weight, just presence, facing the sea, as if the house were merely a better vantage point. When she dared to move, he was gone, but every window had fogged from the inside, each pane etched with a single fingerprint. She moved inland that night, never returned. A pattern has formed. When the tide recedes too quickly, when the moon rises red, when the sea goes still enough to reflect more than just the sky, he comes closer. And he is not alone. There are others now. Smaller, fainter, like shadows folded into the folds of light. You never see them directly, but you feel them, like breath against your neck in a still room, like warmth from a flame that isn't there. One shopkeeper found her floor covered in wet footprints, bare, child-sized. But when she checked the cameras, no one entered, and the footage only showed her, alone, sweeping the same spot for hours, unmoving, expression blank. She left town the next morning, closed the shop, nailed the door shut, but the footprints returned, every night, no matter how far she moved. One fisherman claimed he saw the standing blink, Just once, not his own eyes, but eyes, opening and closing along his coat, dozens, maybe more. They blinked in unison, and when they opened, the water around the bar had vanished, gone, exposed seabed, riddled with lines, straight, intersecting, too perfect to be natural, like symbols, like language. It lasted for 12 seconds. Then the sea returned all at once, roaring like something furious with being seen. The fisherman doesn't speak of it anymore, just keeps his hands in his pockets. No one knows why. Until someone caught a glimpse. His palms are smooth now. No prints, just lines, like etchings, like maps. At night, he traces them with a knife, eyes closed, mouth smiling. The bar has risen again, tall now, almost an island. Grass grows there now, thin, pale, swaying though there is no wind. The standing watches from the highest point, and below him faint figures move, not upright, not human, but moving all the same, one by one toward the sea. A lighthouse further up the coast reported strange behavior last week. Their beacon kept turning off at 3:17 a.m. every night, same minute. They replaced the bulb, rewired the circuit. Still, 3:17, darkness. Until one night, the operator waited with a flashlight, and at 3:17, the light went out. But before it did, for just a blink of a moment, it illuminated the beach, and there he stood, at the base of the lighthouse, looking up. The operator quit the next morning, moved inland, now walks with a limp and carries salt in every pocket. The sea has grown still lately, too still. No gulls, no waves, just silence, and in that silence, not peace, but a pressure, a waiting. You'll feel it if you stand too long by the dunes, that sense of being studied by something without eyes, of being measured, not with malice, but with purpose, as if something is deciding what you are worth. There are stories now of voices coming from wells, from drain pipes, from the silence between radio static, always calm, always inviting. They say what you most want to hear, a lost loved one, a regret undone, a version of yourself you miss. But the voice always ends the same way, with the same sentence, the same offer. Come back. It's waiting. You don't remember ever being there, but the voice does. It remembers you. It remembers everything. The standing is not a warning. He is not a curse. He is not even a he. He is the threshold, the place where things come through and where others never return. He is the moment before a door opens, the breath before a scream, the thought that wakes you with your own name on your lips. And he is closer now, so close. The bar no longer waits for the sea to retreat. It pulses in and out like breath, sometimes dry, sometimes not, but always there, always watching. The villagers have stopped marking their calendars. Time feels irrelevant. When the tides don't obey the moon, when the wind carries no scent, when dreams bleed into morning like ink in water. One child was born last week, came out silent, eyes open, no pupils, just swirling gray. They say he stares toward the ocean constantly, smiles when it rains, doesn't blink when thunder cracks. His mother won't touch him. His father swears he hums in his sleep, and that the tune is older than sound. The sea has not taken him, not yet, but the standing watches him longer than the others. At least that's what they say. No one goes close enough to be sure. There are no warnings left to give, only memories of them, worn thin like driftwood, soft at the edges, hollow in the middle. The standing waits, but not for you. He's waiting for the last boundary to forget itself, the last mirror to blink, the last voice to answer back. And when it does, when you do, he'll step forward, 1 foot at a time, without sound, without end, and the sea will follow him inland, not in flood, not in rage, but in invitation. You won't drown, not really. You'll simply fall deeper into silence, into memory, into him. And you'll understand the standing was never waiting. He was remembering the shape you left behind and holding the door open. The dunes have stopped shifting. What once moved like breath across the coast now stands still, locked in the moment before exhalation, as though the land itself is holding something in or bracing for something to arrive. Some say the sand has hardened, not like stone, but like memory, stiff, set. One girl wandered barefoot too close to the edge of it. She said it felt warm, not from the sun, but from within, as if something beneath was listening, as if it was rising to meet her skin. She screamed when her feet sank, only an inch, no more, but it was enough. enough to understand. She doesn't speak now, but she draws. Endless spirals, always spirals, each one darker than the last. The town priest tried to bless the shoreline, not with ritual, just with presence. He walked the beach at dawn, whispering scripture through the mist. On the third morning, he did not return. They found his rosary hung from a driftwood branch, each bead charred, the cross melted flat, no fire, no smoke, no sign of heat, just silence and dry sand all around. The whispers in the hollow have grown louder, not in volume, but in closeness. They no longer echo from a distance. Now they curl just behind your ears. Curl into your name. Say it like a sigh. Say it like they own it. People turn without knowing why. And always, the shore is empty, but the footprints aren't. New ones, deeper, facing inland. And sometimes they stop at your door. One morning, the entire village smelled of salt. Not sea air, not spray, but the concentrated brine of something ancient and trapped. It seeped from the drains, from the cracks in the walls, from the breath of those who dared speak. That night, windows bloomed with condensation, even the ones long shattered, and on each pane, a single shape formed, a hand, not pressed, not smudged, drawn as if from the inside. Fingers long, palm wide, and where the heart line should be, a spiral. A man who once studied the tides now counts shadows instead. He says they've begun appearing before their owners, stretching too far, curving the wrong way, speaking to each other in flickers and twitches. He covers every mirror in his house, even the puddles, even the screen of his phone. He claims they're watching, not with eyes, but with recognition. He says the reflection knows where you're not looking, and it shows you to the things that are. No birds fly over the hollow anymore. Even the gulls avoid it. The sky is clean, too clean, as if the air above the bar has been scraped of wings. One child tried to fly a kite. The string pulled hard, so hard it cut into her fingers. But the sky was windless, the kite never rose. Still something pulled, upward, relentless. She let go. The string snapped back, coiling with a sound like laughter. The kite was never found. Some swear the standing has grown taller, that his shadow bends the light wrong, stretches in curves where it should fold in angles. Others say he's thinning, becoming more line than form, more idea than body, that he's unraveling into what he always was. Not a man, not a ghost, not a thing, but a moment stretched too far, a choice never made, a breath that should have ended but didn't. A girl wandered too close at dusk. She said the air changed, tasted different, felt thicker, like the space between two words left unsaid. She says the world around her slowed, but the figure on the bar, it moved. Not fast, not dramatic, just a shift, a lean, a tilt of its head as if something had caught its attention. She felt seen, not noticed, seen, completely, like the way a place might remember the steps that passed through it. When she ran, the tide followed, all the way to her porch. The water receded by morning, but the boards were warped and dark, as if something had rested there, heavy, wet. They say the standing is not a warning. He is the moment before a decision, a stillness offered again and again, a waiting room for fate. But every waiting room must eventually open its door. One man dreams of doorways now, each night another, each one wider, each one closer. They're never attached to buildings, just standing in fields, on hills, in the middle of his own kitchen. And always, just before he wakes, the handle turns. He boarded his house shut, he sleeps under the bed now, but still the dreams come. One morning, a door appeared at the edge of the beach. Plain wood, old, no frame, no hinges, just upright in the sand, closed. The villagers gathered at a distance, watched, waited. It did not move. The tide reached for it, retreated, as if uncertain, as if respecting it. By noon, the door had vanished, only dry sand remained, and one shoe, old, leather, too small. Inside it a folded note, one word, return. The hollow holds its breath now. The trees sway slower, the clouds linger longer, even time has begun to stutter. Watches tick backwards for seconds at a time, clocks strike midnight at noon. A boy was born with sand in his mouth, coughing, sputtering, but smiling. His eyes opened wide, no irises, just spirals, endless, and when he blinked, the wind outside changed direction. His mother sings lullabies no one recognizes, old songs, salt thick, woven with silences that feel too long. The bar rises now even when the moon is full, even when the tide should consume it. It has its own rhythm, its own heartbeat, and it is syncing with something deeper. The standing watches still, never turned, never moved, and yet closer, always closer. The space between him and the hollow is thinner now. You feel it when you breathe, like your lungs remember another shape, a shape that once faced the sea and never came back. You will dream of him, you already have. You may not remember it, but your bones do. The cold you feel in your fingers when you pass by still water, that's him. The ache behind your teeth in silence, that's him. The moment when your reflection smiles just a breath too late, that's him. He has been with you longer than you've known. He is not coming. He has arrived, and he is waiting for you to notice. One last breath, one last whisper, and the door will open. It always does. Some say it already has. They don't remember walking through it, but they remember what it felt like. The air, still, warm, too thick for lungs that had never known silence that deep. The color of the sky, wrong, somehow. Not dark, not light, just absent. And the sound, no, not sound, the suggestion of one, like a breath held behind every tree, beneath every wave, inside every name you've ever said aloud, waiting to be finished. Those who felt it speak less now. Their sentences trail off, as if each thought steps too close to something they're not supposed to say. Not yet. The schoolhouse sits empty, but the chalkboards are never clean. Every morning a new word appears, one at a time, always smudged at the edges, as if drawn from a place where language is still learning how to be heard. Last week the word was threshold. The week before, again. No one erases them anymore. The one teacher who tried woke up with her fingers burned. Not blistered, not injured, just blackened, as if dipped in soot that wouldn't wash off. She wears gloves now, even in sleep. Some homes have begun to vanish, not collapse, not rot, just go. One day there, the next gone. No rubble, no outline, only a circle of sand where the foundation used to be. And always dry, always warm, always waiting. A woman came back after years away. She had left as a child before the bar began its reach. She didn't believe the stories. She laughed at the fear, said time makes myths from shadows. She stood on the beach her first night back, shoes off, windless air. And then, without meaning to, without understanding why, I remember you. The standing tilted, just slightly, enough to break the horizon behind him, enough to make the sea ripple without wind. She dropped her phone. It was full of pictures from earlier that day, the street, the ocean, her family. But when she picked it up, every image was now of the sandbar, different angles, different times of day, all the same subject, and in each one, closer, closer, closer. She hasn't been seen since, but every so often her voice crackles through the radio at the gas station, soft, gentle, repeating the same thing. It's not waiting anymore. Dreams are changing, not nightmares, not visions, but shared memories. People wake with the same scenes behind their eyes, a dark hallway filled with doors, each one breathing, each one pulsing in time with a heart they don't recognize. They all remember one door in particular, wooden, splintered, noblesse. Behind it, not silence, but a whisper looped backward, like a secret remembering itself in reverse. One boy woke from the dream and walked outside. His parents found him on the roof, arms outstretched, eyes closed, facing the bar, mouthing something with no sound. They brought him down. He hasn't spoken since, but he smiles when the tide is high. The bar is not a place anymore. It's an event, an arrival that hasn't stopped arriving. A point where moments fold in on themselves and ask to be lived again. A child's toy was found embedded in the cliff wall, not buried, fused, melted into the rock like it had always been there. The plastic was clean, unaged. It played a tune no one could name, 7 notes, over and over. That night, the wind carried the same melody all through the hollow, all the way inland, all the way into sleep. They say the standing moves now, not when watched, only in the spaces between glances, only in the gaps of blinking, only when you're about to turn away. And when he moves, the bar hums. You don't hear it with your ears. You feel it in your teeth, in your spine, like a vibration that means to reshape you. There was a man who tried to leave, packed his things, loaded his truck, started the engine, but the road looped. Not visibly, not obviously. He just kept passing the same tree, the same sign. The same crow on the fence post. He drove for hours, then stopped, stepped out, faced the ocean, and walked. They found the truck the next morning, door open, keys still in the ignition, seat covered in dry sand. The standing is no longer just a figure. He is in the soil, in the pulse beneath the floorboards, in the hush before the radio tunes in. He is the erosion of certainty, the gentle undoing of the world's straight edges. Someone tried to measure him, used tools, LiDAR, scanners. Every attempt failed. The data was always wrong. Lines spiraled instead of converging. Distances looped. One reading showed he was 12 feet tall, another 5, a third none at all. Just static, just noise. And in the metadata of every scan, the same string of numbers, repeated over and over. 3. They say that's the hour when the hollow sleeps the hardest, when the boundary thins. When your name echoes twice if spoken aloud, once in your own voice and once in something else's. An old radio tower blinked on last week. It hasn't worked in years. No one maintains it, but the red light flashed for 3 nights straight, each blink matching the rhythm of a heartbeat. On the third night, it stayed lit. And then it broadcasted. One sentence. A voice no one recognized. Come see what you left behind. The message didn't repeat, but the tower still hums, always just on the edge of hearing. They've stopped naming the figure now, no longer he, no longer the standing, no longer anything at all, because to name it is to fix it in place, and nothing about it is fixed. It is not becoming, it is unbecoming, not growing, but unfolding, a memory opening itself from the inside out, a concept breathing into flesh. It is the sea's apology. It is the land's revenge. It is the breath before your birth and the shadow at your last window. One girl wrote in her journal, "There is a shape in the water that matches mine." Next day, she was gone, her journal left on the windowsill, open to a page filled with spirals, and beneath them one sentence written over and over, "We are remembering ourselves." The waves have stopped breaking. They roll now, silent and glassy, smooth as skin, and the horizon is closer, almost touchable, almost not there at all. Sometimes, if you walk far enough at low tide, the air shifts, the temperature rises, and the shadows start pointing the wrong way. You'll see a door, not standing, not built, just there, etched into the water, outlined in salt. It opens when you look away. And if you hear your own voice calling from it, don't answer. Not because it's dangerous, but because it already knows what you'll say. And once it has your voice, you'll follow it. Not because you have to, but because you already did. Because you've already been there and you left the door ajar. He is not watching anymore. He is walking. And the tide walks with him, and the silence, and the echo of every step you've ever taken without knowing why. It will come softly, like fog, like breath on your shoulder, like a name you forgot was yours. And when it comes, you will open the door because it was never locked. It was waiting for you. The final morning was still, not just quiet, still. The kind of stillness that erases time, that pulls all things inward toward the center of something unspeakably old. The sea did not move, the trees did not move, and no birds flew overhead. Only the bar, rising, towering, its shape unfamiliar now, not an island, not land, something in between. And at its crest, he stood, arms lowered now, no longer in waiting, no longer a figure, but the shape of an opening, a suggestion of passage. The door had returned, but this time, not just one, dozens, hundreds, opening across the shoreline, scattered like fallen stars. Some leaned sideways in the surf, others stood behind homes where fences once were, one opened beneath the water itself, and something climbed through. Not fast, not slow, just sure. In the village, windows blinked, not shutters, windows, as if the glass had grown tired of reflecting and turned to see instead. Lights flickered once, then stayed off, forever. Every clock stopped at the same moment, 3:17. Every bell unrung let out a final chime. Every breath held, exhaled. The people didn't run, they didn't scream, they simply stepped forward, one by one, from their homes, from their silence, toward the door that matched them best. And the doors knew. They opened wider, warmer. No hands reached out, no force compelled them, only memory, only return. One by one, they vanished into the quiet, into the passage that was never meant to stay closed. And when the last soul crossed, when the hollow was hollow at last, the standing stepped forward. And for the first time, he turned. He had no face, only a hollow where a face might once have been. But from that hollow, light poured out, not bright, not blinding, but endless, the color of forgetting, the weight of being known. The sea followed him, not crashing, not roaring, but rising, swallowing the sandbar, and then the beach, and then the village. Quietly, grateful by dusk, there was nothing left. No homes, no bar, no standing, only water and silence, and just beneath the surface, doors, waiting.